The Bleach anime was always like the middle child that every parent forgets about but still manages to make it through. It is iconic, there is no doubt about that. With over 130 million copies sold, Tite Kubo is solidified as a mangaka. But the anime wasn't always so hot. It was debated for years whether or not it's even in the infamous Big 3 of Shonen anime, and it likely is just because Dragon Ball is viewed as the godfather of anime itself. As for the Bleach anime, it's almost as much filler as it is canon, and to be honest, there are a lot of unexplained plot points. But it drastically changed, and I mean drastically. Of course, mouse scores are not the be-all end-all of critique, but it wasn't just the scores, but the overall feel of the show. There was a completely different tone, characters actually died, and the pacing was infinitely better. Some of you might be wondering specifically what changed to spark such an infinitely better anime. Well, everything kind of changed. But before I get to that, we're gonna have to look back at the real issues of the original Bleach anime. Filler aside, since that's the most obvious, I personally think one of Bleach's greatest strength was also its greatest weakness. Now, I'm not trying to sound like a poet, but the most iconic thing about Bleach is not a plot nor a soundtrack, despite how amazing the OST is, but it's a character. I'm sure most of you already know, but his name is Aizen. Literally every defense of the show would somehow find its way back to Aizen. Like if you ask a Bleach fan what makes the anime so great, we have Aizen. Okay, first of all, who is we? You are not Tite Kubo. And second, I get you have Aizen, but what do you have? Like, what besides him? We have Aizen. Alright, bro, like, I heard you the first time. I don't even want to talk about Bleach anymore. We have Aizen. Son, your mom has been diagnosed with cancer. We have Aizen? Jokes aside, Aizen is not only the best villain in Bleach, but he is one of the most iconic villains in anime as a whole. As much as Bleach stans hold on to that aspect, it's fair. I mean, once I seen this man catch Ichigo's sword with his bare hands, I had to give it to him. And despite him being one character, Tite Kubo essentially wrote him into everyone's story, including our main character Ichigo. So yes, again, he is just one character, but he is also the main antagonist, which is a crazy plot twist in itself. Now, in the weakness aspect, I think this much is self-explanatory. Since Aizen is such a big part of the show, moments without him kind of lose face. Like of all the Bleach arcs, other fans and myself always go back to the Soul Society arc. Now why is that? Because we have Aizen. I mean, seriously, it's the point where Aizen is revealed to be the villain. Now, that wasn't the only thing that happened. We also got introduced to the major cast, the Shinigami powers, and the alternate setting, which is the Soul Society. So I don't want to completely bash Bleach, because fillers aside, the world itself is pretty thought out. There's a set system of power, and yes, again, many plot holes, which I'll get to. But overall, it's a classic shonen, and there's no doubt about that. Now, the plot holes, I can't even pin them all, because there is truly a lot. The main issue I have is how insanely OP Ichigo becomes out of reasons that come out of the blue. Now trust me, Ichigo isn't the only anime protagonist like that. Tanjiro literally gains a new power every time he's on the brink of death. But I mean, come on man. A son of a Quincy and a Shinigami? And don't even get me started on your watch actually being his sword, and I quote, holding him back. Now this is in TYBW. Keep in mind, the new version of Bleach, not even the OG Bleach. But I remember talking to my friend about this and going, yo, that plot twist was kind of insane. Like, to be honest, he did look like Hiwatch, so it kind of makes sense. Then my friend says, alright, but if he's given this power, right, or quote unquote holding back on this power, which don't get me started on, then why isn't Hiwatch in every Quincy? Pause. But you know what I mean. And there's literally no explanation. Hiwatch is every Quincy's dad, so what makes Ichigo special? He's just the main character, huh? And the reason I used the 1000-year Blood War plot hole is because there's many like it in the original Bleach. For example, the time where Ichigo fought Kenpachi and won, while keep in mind, being held back. The time where Rukia lost to a regular Hollow on Earth despite being part of the Soul Society. Or maybe she's just weak as hell, which people need to start acknowledging and lay off of Sakura, because what has Rukia really done? And the list keeps on going. But even with this plot hole and random explanations that happen at times, including the fact that Hiwatch was never even mentioned before this arc, unless I forgot, which seems a bit crazy to me considering he's like the Itachi of this world, in the sense his entire clan got wiped by the leader of Soul Society. But why mention that, right? But truly, all of that aside, this show has gained a new light. Like I said earlier, there's a completely different tone, but how? I'd say is because the name itself, the 1,000-year Blood War. At this point, it's given that if you're a shonen anime, you need a war arc. Marineford in One Piece is what solidified the show for me. I don't think I've watched as many anime episodes in a day as I did when Marineford first started. The stakes are raised, something or someone is on the line, and it's an all-out battle between the strongest characters of the show. The Dark Tournament arc, the Great Ninja War, I mean, it's endless, and they're all iconic. Of course, the animation's a given and what improved, but we kind of expected that given the time period where each Bleach was made in. But finally, Bleach has a solid plot that Aizen is not a part of. At least not yet. We all know this man is plotting something. But meanwhile, it has been so fun to watch. Bleach has always been a cool anime. It always had the most stylized characters, and they're always dripped out. Now add on to that the OST, which I mentioned is honestly the second best thing about the show after Aizen, and then this new and improved animation, it's all coming together. And not to say that they didn't have a solid plot in the past, it's just how inconsistent it was. Even its best arc, the Soul Society arc, was literally broken up by filler. And yes, filler is skippable and shows like Naruto don't really catch any flack for having so much filler, but Naruto has almost double the content. Bleach was 300 something episodes with like 150 filler. So even if you skip it, which I did, the pacing just felt off and the timelines weren't exactly right. But now it feels a whole lot different. It literally feels like each episode is being made with the utmost care. Ichigo is getting even more brokenly OP as a character, but that's okay because the highs of this brand new season is unlike any other. The tensions have never been this high and the character's fate have never been in this much jeopardy. It's the last season and there's no more messing around, and clearly the studio making this knows exactly that. It's still not perfect, but it's really good. Not every explanation will have the most background, but with this many intense battles going on at the same time, and stakes higher than they've ever been, I can look past those few flaws to accept the many great things about it. Bleach is on a whole new level and I can't wait to see more.